Bestie, let's talk about the fact that you are still out here repeatedly having sex with a person that does not satisfy you. Yeah, we're getting straight into it today.
Holy is the sunrise, clear as the water.
Let's be honest, in this world that we live in, our pleasure is not supposed to be prioritized because how else would capitalism run? How else would the world continue to thrive if people were not out here suffering? I've come to the conclusion that taking care of yourself and prioritizing your pleasure is probably one of the most radical things you can do in this world that we live in. Us neglecting our pleasure leaks into so many different aspects. It leaks into what we choose to do with our lives, how we interact with other people, how we interact with ourselves, and what goes on in the bedroom. Especially for women. We're pretty much taught that we're just human sex toys. And I'm not here for that anymore. Um, I've given up that lifestyle a long ass time ago. As soon as I learned that I'm supposed to get satisfaction in the bedroom as well, it was over for everybody. Because I used to just sit there and be like, oh, it's okay if I didn't get mine. He got his, and I just really love satisfying other people. I love seeing other people be happy. And that's because I was never taught, bitch, you're allowed to be happy too. You are allowed to seek pleasure as well. So, yes, bestie, we're going to sit here and we're going to break down the fact that we're still out here doing the do with people who jackrabbit for 2 minutes and then might cuddle afterwards. Like I said, I'm not going to judge you because I've been there, I've done that, but we're over it. Start putting yourself first in all aspects of life because you deserve to be put first. Like I said, taking care of yourself and prioritizing your pleasure is one of the most radical things you can do in this world. And we're out here being radical. Period. There was a point in time where there was this guy. Really liked him. He was such a sweetheart. Loved having conversations with him. But when it came to do the deed, he was kind of lacking in that area, if you know what I mean. And there's nothing wrong with that. As long as you know what to do with it, we're all set. But he was so lacking that it really didn't matter what he would do with it. But I was like, oh, he's so sweet. He's so nice. He's so kind. We have great conversations. Like, he stimulated my brain. At least I can do something for him, as if, like, sex and conversation was supposed to be transactional. Um, but yeah, so anyways, when it came to doing the deed, he was so lacking that, you know, um, the thingy came off in me, right? And I was like, oh no, that's perfectly fine. It's okay. Like, everything's fine. So obviously it was not fine. It was not enjoyable for me. And then my dumbass decided to do it with him again. Yeah, you heard that right. I decided to do it with him again, even though I got absolutely nothing out of it but conversation. And the funny thing is, I didn't have to do that to have conversation. You don't have to let yourself be a human sex toy just to get conversation or just to get cuddles or just to go out on a date. Understand that if somebody is treating sex as something transactional and both parties aren't being satisfied, then it's not really transactional. It's just a huge ass letdown and it's very one sided. But can you like really blame us for doing stuff like that? For just allowing ourselves to be used as human sex toys when we were never really taught in media or in corn that women's pleasures come first? No, I don't blame us. But eventually we do have to do better. And I decided to do better because why am I laying down with somebody and I'm not getting anything from this? Like, I'm not being satisfied in any type of way besides maybe mental stimulation. But like I already said, you can have mental stimulation without sex. You can have other forms of intimacy without sex. I don't want to hear, oh, but we've been dating so long, or we've had such great conversations, or they're such a cool ass person, or it doesn't mean that much to me. If it doesn't mean that much to you, then why are you still doing it? If sex means nothing to you, if you don't really care to have that incorporated in your relationships, then that should be double sided. You should not have to lay there and let somebody jackrabbit in you just because it feels good for them. They can go find somebody that cares about sex that much. But if you don't care, then why are you still laying down, bestie? Why? If you don't care, then it should not be incorporated in your life, and you should not let somebody use you in that way. Repeatedly having sex with somebody that is not satisfying you is self harm. You're harming yourself because you're physically letting somebody use you, and mentally and emotionally, you're going to check out and you're going to resent that person because they're not satisfying you. And watch how that certain aspect of not prioritizing your pleasure can leak into all the other aspects of your life. Like, for sure, we're taught that no, women really shouldn't get anything from sex. It should be a man's thing. But just look how that can be detrimental to everything else. Because if you don't have boundaries in the bedroom, what does your outside the bedroom look like? Are you setting boundaries with your friends? Are you allowing them to talk you into doing things that you don't really want to do because it's going to be fun for them? Are you saying yes to things that will not be satisfactory to you? Are you putting yourself first in any other aspect? Huh, bestie? You want to answer those questions for me? Because let's be honest, if you are not prioritizing your pleasure in one aspect, that starts to leak over to the others. We're not doing that anymore. You need to start putting yourself first because you are the most important. I know I started this video off talking about pleasure when it comes to sex, but you can feel pleasure in any aspect of life. Pleasure is not just sexual. Pleasure can be spiritual. Pleasure can be emotional. Pleasure can be mental. Pleasure can be financial. Pleasure can literally be in any aspect of your life. Pleasure is just the thing that makes your shoulders drop, that makes you feel at peace, makes you feel at home. It makes you feel one with yourself. At one point in time, we have all experienced pleasure. And I know we won't feel it all the time, but it's at least something we should strive for so we can continue to be connected to ourselves, so we can continue to be content with our lives, especially in times like this. We're in the middle of a damn pandemic. At some point in time, it feels like everything is falling apart. So you have to find pleasure in something. May it be sitting outside and reading a book, or drinking a cup of tea, or being alone in your room, binge watching Netflix. We all find pleasure in something, and you have to hold on to that. We gotta realize that we do indeed deserve pleasure. Like, that's something we have a right to, and we don't have to work 70 hours a week to deserve it. We don't have to do for other people to deserve it. By yourself, you deserve pleasure. You deserve to feel good. You deserve to have something that makes you feel on top of the world. And that's why you have to start prioritizing yourself. You have to take a step back and ask yourself, what is it that I need to be okay? What is it that can bring me pleasure in this moment? Especially when there's so much going on, especially when you have all these mouths to feed, all these jobs to do. You gotta find something. Otherwise, you just start free floating. We're not out here trying to free float. We want to be connected. We want to feel important because we are important and we deserve to feel that. So start prioritizing yourself first in whatever capacity that you can. Say you're sitting down and you're doing homework, and that's the last thing that you want to be doing right now. Find your favorite place to be and do it. Or afterwards, treat yourself to something. Life should not be full of pain and struggle. You deserve to have good moments too. You deserve to have things that make you happy. And if there are things that you can let go that aren't pleasing you, like the person that jackrabbits inside of you for 2 minutes, or the friends that do not respect your boundaries, if you can let them go, let them go. It's not worth holding on to in the long run because eventually you're going to start resenting them, and then you'll start resenting yourself for holding on to them for so long. Especially those who disrespect your boundaries, or in some instances, you might not have boundaries at all. And that's understandable because a lot of us were never really taught how to establish boundaries. We were just taught to let people do and then deal with it afterwards, instead of putting up that fence that will prevent us from having to deal with the aftermath. Setting boundaries to you might be putting your phone on do not disturb right before you go to bed. Or it might be telling your superior that I'm here 9 to 5, but after 5, I'm sorry, I am no longer available. No one needs unrestricted access to you. You should treat your energy, your emotions, your mental capacity as a gated community. And you have all rights to kick whomever out at whatever point in time. And if there is somebody in your life who cannot respect those boundaries, It's probably time for you to reevaluate the relationship you have with them. Because if you set a boundary and then somebody gets mad at that boundary you set, maybe they should hit the fucking door. Because that means they do not respect you. They do not respect the limits that you have. Prioritizing your pleasure also looks like creating a space full of people who can give you what you need. Creating a space full of love and compassion, or full of people who you know that you can rely on. Because we thrive in the places that allow us to thrive. If you are trying to plant yourself in a desert, you will not grow. Sometimes you have to reevaluate where you are and who it is that you're around that's preventing you from reaching that point of pleasure, that prevents you from being your best self. If there is a friend that you have that's consistently telling other people your business without your permission, that's not somebody you should have in your community. If you have people that consistently rag on you after you say, hey, I don't really like that, or they can tell that you're uncomfortable with the comments that they're making, those people should not be in your community. It does not matter what these people can do for you. If they are not a safe space, then they do not deserve to be in your life. Taking the journey to prioritizing your pleasure is hard, especially when you've never had boundaries and when you've never been taught that you actually do deserve pleasure without having to work for it. In order to help you, you can start saying affirmations like, I do not have to earn pleasure. Pleasure is my right. I am learning to love myself better. No one has a right to say what brings me joy. The more I prioritize myself, the more joy and peace I have. I can do, be, and have anything that I want. You can also sit down and make a list and ask yourself, what are the things that bring me pleasure and what are the things that are taking away from my pleasure? Or where do I experience the most joy out of my life? These are things that you have to ask yourself because essentially you're relearning yourself. You were taught for so long that you don't really deserve pleasure. You were taught for so long that in the list of people and the list of things in life, you come last. So now you have to sit down and you have to reevaluate, you have to relearn what exactly is it that you need to give you pleasure. Because at the end of the day, if you don't put yourself first, nobody else probably will. If you start talking to yourself like shit, people will probably follow in line. If you don't prioritize your pleasure, neither will anybody else. And of course, there are always exceptions to the rules. There will always be somebody out there who might love you more than you love yourself. But what happens when that person leaves? What happens when that person can't do it anymore? Now that person is gone and you don't know how to prioritize your pleasure. And you don't know how to put yourself first because you always relied on somebody else to do it for you. You don't want to put yourself in a position to have to rely on somebody else that could potentially leave and take everything with them. So take the time and try to do those things for yourself. Yes, it will be hard. Yes, it is a long ass process. I am still learning to prioritize myself. I still don't have that great of boundaries. But that's okay. Because we're just out here, we're learning, you know? We're just trying to navigate through life the best way that we can. And that's really all that matters. As you're going to learn something along the way, and you may or may not apply it, but whatever it is, you've learned. And eventually you will level up. So, besties, no, we would not continue to let people jackrabbit inside of us just for conversation or just for cuddles. No, we will not let people continue to disrespect our boundaries. Yes, we will take the time to form boundaries. Yes, we will start treating ourselves. Yes, we will start putting ourselves first because that is what we deserve. We have a right to pleasure and nobody can take that away from us. And if they do try, then we can tell them that they can swallow a Lego. Is that okay with you? Because that's okay with me. Now go forth and be great.
Don't talk too soon, I ain't dead.